everybody, it's your boy CA Motivates, and we're back again for another week of More Than Just a Game podcast. And tonight we're very honored and privileged to have our guest with us, who will be speaking with us and encouraging us and empowering us and giving us tips on how we can be the best athletes that we can be on and off the field. And we're very, very lucky to have him. He's an international coach. He's coached Super Rugby. He's coached international teams in the Rugby World Cup. And he is now over in Japan, continuing his trade and coaching professional rugby in Japan. So for all of those budding athletes who want to go to that next level, I encourage you to have your pens and paper ready to listen as you get some insight into what coaches look for when they're selecting players and the types of people and types of players that they look for. It's not just what you do on the field, they also look for what you do off the field. So tonight, sit back and relax and enjoy our podcast. It's your boy CA Motivates. Let's go. Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of More Than Just a Game. You're with your boy CA Motivates. And tonight, we're very, very blessed and very honored and lucky to have an amazing man with us. He is a professional in all aspects of life. As a father, as a husband, as a mate, and also more importantly with his role as a coach. And he has coached Super Rugby. He has coached international, and now he is coaching professional team in Japan. Also background in rugby. So welcome to More Than Just a Game, Mr. ZANE Hilton, bro. Welcome, brother. How are you, man?
Yeah, good, Chris. Thank you, mate. Appreciate the time. Thanks for having me on.
Nah, thank you, bro. Thank you, man. Really appreciate you, man. I think the first time we came into connecting was at the Rebels. I think I was chaplain. You actually helped me get that opportunity to be a chaplain there.
That's right, mate. Absolutely. So, we'd met a couple of times, hadn't we? And then I think the reality for me was we had a lot of boys that, were strong in faith, and, it was certainly something that maybe we were missing at the time. And we really wanted someone like yourself to come in, mate. It was great to have you a part of it. We had sort of 65% Pacific Islander base in the team at the time. And, mate, you were perfect, mate. You did a great role.
No, thank you, Zen. No, I appreciate it. I remember when I was left as a DO with the VRU, my passion was to do chaplaincy, and and your invitation was it was a blessing, bro, because it set me up for what I'm doing now as in mentoring. So, man, I enjoyed our time there, and then you helped out with our conference as well. I think it was our first conference or second conference for new breed athletes. You were there speaking as well. That was awesome, man.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Look, always a pleasure to be a part of everything with Under Armour. Like, I think, there's certain organisations you see that you see the work that they're doing, but it's also the belief and the power and the strength of word that's behind it, which is really important. I think I've seen you had George on recently on this podcast as well, mate, which is great. So I think he was at the same conference. So
he was.
Mate, he's a good man. He's doing great work as well. So, which is awesome.
Yeah, he was there. Mr. Danger's on there, and you would know Tamati as well. Tamati,
of course,
was on as well. I think he just recently moved from Japan back to NZ.
He did. Yeah, we actually played Tamati last year. So I coached against Tamati in the competition here. We played each other in, I think it was November last year. So, mate, great to see him getting an opportunity back in, I think it's Wellington he's gone back to with the Lions. So really happy for him in his transition from being an amazing player, obviously, but then to now go back into coaching. That sort of, it was always, he will give a very different flavour to coaching. He's very much the new style coach because it's player-centred, player-driven, and he's just a great man of faith. So, mate, he'll be excellent at anything he does.
Oh, awesome. And family, Zane, how's the family going?
They're well, mate. They're well. Look, I'm based in Japan, but Emma and the children, they're based in Brisbane in Australia. So, look, that's the sacrifice, unfortunately, of professional coaching sometimes, but there's no doubt, with FaceTime and with all the technology these days, makes it a lot easier. COVID-19's made it a bit tougher with the ability for me to be able to get back as quickly as I can. But look, we'll make a way around that. And when we're together, mate, it's it's as always, which is good.
Awesome. Well, again, behalf of Ainama, I want to thank you, Zane, for taking this time out, of your schedule. And, that's what I love about you, man. Like, you're always willing to give back. And it's such a gift that, you not many carry these days, But for you, man, no, thank you, bro. I appreciate it. Now we're going to come to a favorite part of our podcast, and these are just questions, and it's our warm-up questions, and bit of fun, just to kind of get the vibes going and everything. So, got 3 questions. These questions were given to me by Marcel, and I know you know Marcel very well because he's up in Brisbane, So this is from Marcel, and the first question is this. What is your favorite cheat meal? Like when you were playing, and you had your training schedule and everything, like training hard and after the game, what was your favorite cheat meal?
Mate, I'd have to say pizza. There's no being a front rower, mate. There's nothing compromises a good pizza and being able to get it into you. I'd say pepperoni pizza, mate.
Wow, that's awesome. There's a little what the island, like us Tongans do, right? And some of the islanders, we grab a pizza and then we get this thing called Best Foods mayonnaise and we put it on there and then we slap another pizza on top and we got a pizza sandwich. And then maybe tried it.
Mate, my time in my 18 or nearly 2 years in Samoa, living there, coaching there, I think I saw that a few times, mate. I think I saw it on the menu.
Maybe it was some corned beef in there as well as a bit of taro.
That's true, mate. A bit of taro in the middle.
In the middle. Nice. Awesome. Pizza. All right. So athletes, put that down on your list if you're watching right now. Pizza. Second question is to do with movies. I love movies, and I know you're probably a movie man as well. And no one can go past the famous Arnie Schwarzenegger movies. And what's your favorite Arnie movie? And what's your favorite line? He's got many one-liners, plenty of one-liners. What's your favorite one-liner? And can you do that in the accent?
Yeah, I don't know how good my accent's going to be, mate. But look, I'm a traditionalist, so I like Terminator. I like I like the number one, like the first one.
Yep.
And get to the chopper. That would definitely be my favorite line, mate, for sure. I don't know how that accent went.
That was perfect. That was perfect, Zane. Perfect. Just like Arnie, man. Just like Arnie.
Oh, yeah. I wish I looked like him.
Hey, at least we got the same hairstyle, man.
That's true, mate. That's true.
Nice. The last question is, if you could be, because you said you played front row, and to be in the front row, you got to be strong and tough, And so, if you could choose, like say, looking at animals and their strengths, which animal would you choose? If you could choose an animal, which animal would you be and why?
Mate, I'd love to be a lion, mate.
Oh, a lion.
The reason why, because they're the king of the jungle, mate. There's no doubt.
Nice.
Like being in charge, mate, being number one, that would always be nice, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, a lion is smart as well.
I don't know what my wife would say to that about me being the king of the jungle. She'd probably want to be the king, be in charge. But look, it's always nice to dream, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's I'm the same with Rochelle. It's always you always dream to be the leader, but how they say, we wear the pants, but the wives wear the belts.
Correct, man.
So they're the real bosses. Awesome, Zane. Thank you for answering those questions. And that's our warm-up questions for tonight. We're now coming to another part of our podcast called Get to Know You. And that and it just gives a chance for the viewers and the athletes to get to know a little bit about who Zane Hilton is. I mentioned at the beginning that professional coach. He coached at the Rebels, he coached at Manu Samoa, the World Cup, and now you're in Japan. And so get to know you is just kind of giving a bit of a background, where you grew up, your playing career, because I know you played as well, and then what inspired you to play rugby, and what were some challenges that you faced in rugby as a rugby player that you've been able to take away those learnings and use it now?
Yeah, awesome, mate. Good question. Look, where I started, Chris, I was actually a cricketer, mate, funnily enough. Yeah, so look, I grew up in country Queensland and a lot of different places from a farm.
Yep.
A lot of different farming communities in so Longreach, Charleville, Mitchell, St. George, Texas. in Queensland, so I moved around a lot. But ultimately, we're off farms. So cricket was very much the number one game back then. And as I got a little bit older, I played rugby league. Came through because obviously it's the number one game in Queensland country. So became a rugby league player. I was lucky enough, mate, to get an opportunity to go to Nudgee College, which is one of the major rugby schools in Queensland. But I actually went as a cricketer, funnily enough, rather than a rugby player. So played rugby there, and then I was, lucky enough, it gave me a great grounding in the game. I then went overseas, actually went to the UK. I worked as a teacher's aide for a couple of years and played rugby, and then came back to, the Brothers Club in Brisbane, where I actually know Marcel and played with Marcel. Look, I'll be honest, Chris, I wasn't a great player in all honesty. Back then, the game was more about probably your physicality, I dare say, more so than the silky skills that everyone has. So I used to try and impose myself a little bit there, and probably unsuccessfully. But look, I had some great years at Brothers, and I really enjoy playing there. Look, in terms of challenges, I got a lot of concussions in the later part of my career, mate. Wow. And had a lot of concussions right through. I think in my final year of playing, so I was only young. So I was only 24, turning 25, and I had 11 concussions in the 1 year.
Wow.
And we're in the grand final, and I remember, well, I don't actually remember, but I was knocked out and carried from the field, and I woke up in hospital. So, and at the time though, however, Chris, since I was 20, I'd been coaching all the way through. So been working in development in Queensland rugby for a period. And then off the back of that, had moved to working in the Reds College, which is quite a regional academy as such, where we had 230 athletes. So I was leading that up, but also I was head coach of that, but also playing at the same time. So after that, I know my wife, which was my girlfriend at the time, we sort of had a discussion about, look, 11 concussions, and the doctor just said, look, maybe playing's not for you, and probably maybe not the best way to go. So look, I always had a passion for coaching, mate. So I then threw everything I could into coaching. And then that challenge that I used with about having to give up my playing days certainly shaped who I am, because I think it made me realise that, Chris, to be fair, I probably didn't work hard enough as a player to really see my potential. I thought I worked hard, but then becoming a coach and knowing how hard you can actually push yourself, I probably look back now with a little bit of guilt that I didn't work hard enough. So I think the challenge was that, yes, I stopped playing and was forced to, but in hindsight, it was a really good lesson, because now it made me make the most of every single opportunity that I've got, right? So I take the most opportunity of everything I've got, and I'm grateful for the time I had playing. And now I just make the most of it, and certainly explain to the players that every opportunity you get, you have to take. And every day that you're doing that is a chance to really put your best foot forward. So that was definitely the challenge, and certainly what I learned from it.
Wow, that's such a good takeaway there for athletes that are watching, because like you said, you had to make a big decision, and then also learn how to turn that into a positive. And a lot of athletes, and you will know this, that whenever they get a negative, would it be a career-ending injury or a setback, non-selection, and that, some players don't know how to take that as well, and are not able to move forward. And I guess that's where a lot of like these days you hear a lot of stuff about the mental challenges as a player. There's a book called Relentless by Tim Grover, and he talks about the most important as an athlete is from the neck up. And that, and just you sharing that is very encouraging for the athletes, and thank you for sharing that, Zane. And if you're those that are watching tonight, make sure you got your pen and paper ready, because what you're going to hear from Zane is gold, and it's not going to just help you as an athlete, but it's also going to help you as a person. as well. That's awesome, Zane. Like that's kind of gone into our next questions in regards to coaching, and and so the question I was looking at was when did you start to coach in your next phase, and you kind of already answered that already, but now where I want to go is that as a professional coach, what do you look for in players who want to pursue a career in pro rugby or pro, whatever pro sport? Like, a lot of athletes think it's just the silky skills. A lot of them think it's just what they do on the field. But can you just touch a bit more on, like, what do you look for in players?
Absolutely, mate. I think there's a number of things that we certainly look at, and obviously talent's the first one. So, like, when we're looking at players, there's no doubt about it. So we can't step away from the fact that talent's actually really, really important. Yeah. So, but the reality of talent is that people are always talented in different areas, Chris always finds. So as coaches, we find ourselves always talking to players about working on their weaknesses. So what is it remedially that you need to improve on and then go and work on? As coaches, we find ourselves getting caught in that never-ending cycle of always working on working on those areas. But from a coaching perspective, what I've found over the last sort of, certainly, 18, 19 years has been that I think it's just as important for coaches to look at players' talents, but also for players to work on those talents and those strengths as just as important. Wow. So for me as a coach to say that we wouldn't look at talent is certainly unfair, because we do look at people's talents, but we look at what are their strengths. Now, they might not necessarily just be physical. They might also add to the next key area that we look at, which is around their character and their attitude.
Wow.
So for me, I think the reality of the character and the attitude that we look at is, are people, and types of thing, we always look at behaviours. So are players finishing short of the line, or are they working past the line and then working through? Are they continuing to train when people aren't watching? So are they training like every second that they've got on the field counts? Wow. And that every second of the day there's someone there's someone watching them. So there's always these type of things that is a player after the pass, are they working hard to support the ball? So talent comes in many different forms for me. It's not necessarily just the biggest kid who scores all the tries. It's not always the child that makes all the tackles. Talent comes in the ability to strength of character. Yeah. For me, I think is just as important. And then, are they the type of child that's going to work through the line and past the line? Are they the child that's going to be the one that supports? Are they a great teammate? Is just as important, and that's a huge talent. Wow. And then the last thing for me that I look at is hard work, mate. Yeah. So I always look at hard work. Who are the players that are actually going to work hard? Because, again, that's a character trait. So those three things are really, really important for me. I think, one, yes, talented athletes, but it comes in many different forms. Two, the second one is definitely around attitude and character of the player. And then three is definitely hard work. So are they a hard worker? And it's always a combination of all of those three things that make a complete player. And then certainly when I'm looking at players, I look at where can probably myself as a coach, or where can our coaching staff, how can we add value to that player? Because sometimes non-selection of a player doesn't always come down to just the individual player, I don't think. It comes down to perceptions of the coaches and where they feel that player will fit into the group of people they've got. Wow. So I think the lesson from that for certainly the players is non-selection. You don't need to, don't take that personally, because you have to be strong enough in yourself to know that if you've done the work, if you've actually done the work and you're fully prepared for that, and you believe you're a talented player and you've got confidence in that, then a non-selection should not affect you, because there will always be another selection down the path. So I think a non-selection a lot of the time in teams in particular comes down to the perception potentially of the coach and whether or not they believe that person's the right person to fit into their team. And look, that's another discussion for coaches and how to select players and how to get the right people and that sort of stuff. But I think the lesson for players is certainly certainly if you've got confidence in the fact that you're prepared. But I think, to answer your question, those three things are definitely the three key things that I look for.
That's so much gold there, for players and also for coaches, because I know, like you were saying, like around non-selection, a lot of players these days don't know how to take that, and they often take it the negative way, but not looking at the whole team as the big picture, as in, you know what, maybe the way I play, like you're saying, doesn't fit in with the game plan that we need for this week. So for that athlete, they've got to be the bigger person and say, you know what, this is about the team. And instead of, getting upset and, and then having negative vibes that can flow in throughout the team. So that's awesome, because...
sorry to interrupt there, Chris. No, it's a great point you bring up, mate. And always say it to guys when they talk about, there's a lot of players get a feeling when the first team of the year is picked, is that then they're not going to then get another game throughout the rest of the year. I always say, like, rugby works on a 7-day cycle, right? Yeah. So every week as a coach, we go through a plan, act, review process. So we take every game, we should be looking at every game individually. And of course, the group that have been selected for the week before, that they've got that position. However, if we're looking solely at the next game, we then have, as coaches, make decisions based on who we believe the next best 15 or 23 players are to win that game. And that might not be the same players from the week before. And that's what I mean for the players too. So the way you carry yourself post that non-selection is just as important as prior, because you then have to almost be looking at and always be working, always be on. The preparation has to be key, and how you can, and you mentioned it before, it's a selfish act and behavior for us to go, oh, non-selection, I'm going to sit back. Yeah. But the real strong people go, right, what can I now do for the team to now make this team be successful, even though I haven't been selected? They're the people that show the character traits and the behaviors that certainly coaches stand up and look at.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And, for those that are watching tonight, that's really key, like what Coach Zane said there. If you don't get selected, don't be negative. Don't take the negative, approach to it, or look at everything as the big picture, just like in life. Life's going to throw curveballs. Life's going to challenge you. But if you look at the negatives, you're going to stay still. But if you look at it as the positive, like, what can I learn from this? How can I contribute? Then you're going to find yourself, move forward a lot quicker, and, you'll be happier.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, Zane. And even like what you're saying around, like, the talents and being ready and be prepared, because this week, the theme, each week we have a theme, and this week's theme was about staying ready. And I love what you said. I love what you touched on in regards to, being ready, staying ready all the time, finish your runs strong. Don't finish short of the line. Are you training when no one's watching? Because I was sharing with the athletes that in our mentoring session that, sometimes like we kind of cruise, but then when we know, like, when we're 4 weeks out from competition or whatever, then we pick up the game. But, one thing that's always stuck with me, and it's biblical as well, is from the Bible, where it says you got to be ready in and out of season. And I like what you said about, just being ready always for the opportunity.
Yeah. It's a hard thing, isn't it? Because there's certainly behaviors there that take a lot of effort, right? Because our natural instinct as a human is to search for the disappointment in that. Yeah. In whether it be the non-selection, and that's actually okay. So it's important to understand, I think, that it's actually okay to feel like that. Yeah. But now it's a conscious decision to now change that behavior.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest thing for us to get. So you don't have to be so hard on yourself to realize, wow, I'm feeling like this. Wow, I must be a bad person. Yeah. That's not actually the case, right? Like, everyone feels like that. Yeah. Everyone feels like that. It's now the conscious decision to change the behavior. Yeah. And to take the right steps. So I think and you spoke about the selflessness before, but I think the key point that you just mentioned, mate, was around being happy.
Yeah.
And I think that happiness comes from knowing that everything that you have done to put yourself in that position is the best foot forward. It's now not up to you. Yeah. You're now laying that at the feet of someone else.
Yeah.
And you've got to be happy with that. Just be happy with the outcome either way. And if it doesn't go your way, okay, no problem. You deal and now change behavior and you just change direction.
Yeah.
And what's best for the team. A great point that you made.
I loved it. I love what you said there, Zane, because this goes beyond just rugby. Because, not only are you going to get not disappointments, but, non-selection in sport, but it could be in the workplace, where you don't get that promotion, or it could be in, relationship or, family, the family dynamics, and it's really, really important and that's what I love about our game, bro, because it's more than just a game. There's so many things that you can learn from it that you can apply later on in life, and I think the athletes need to understand that sports, league, rugby, whatever sport, it's more than just a game, and there's things you can take away.
Mate, it's a great point. And it's the number one reason I love this game, mate. I'm a really competitive person, so mate, I compete at everything. I compete with my kids at marbles, doesn't matter what it is, right? Like, I just love competing. So the great thing about our game is I think that it's a game for all shapes and sizes.
Yes.
So anyone can play our game, but the nature of our game is around contest. So every opportunity in our game is a game to compete.
Yeah.
So I sort of, and you're saying, it's beyond the game, it's greater than the game. So true, because the game of rugby is very much like the game of life.
That's right.
So every opportunity we get in life is an opportunity, not necessarily to compete. Yes, there's a lot of competition in life, maybe sometimes too much, but there's an opportunity for us to be better in everything we do every day.
That's right.
So, the goal for, because the competitiveness side is it has a result. So, whereas if you're looking at being better every day, it's looking internally and thinking about you as a person. How can you be better? Not worrying about the result of the competitiveness, not worrying about whether we're winning or losing. But if you just look internally, it's the opportunity for me to be better. And that's the great thing about our game, is because every time we play, every time we train, it gives us an opportunity to be better and also to compete in every aspect. But I just love I'm so strong on, as you've just mentioned, it's bigger than the game, it's outside the field. So, I'm a huge believer that preparation is the key to everything we do. And preparation comes not only in understanding who you are as a person, and making sure that you're certainly happy is really, really important. How well you connect with both your family and also your other teammates. And then your ability to prepare yourself ready, both mentally and physically, to play the game we do. So from, as you've mentioned before, as we talk about a lot, the nutrition side, hydration, the recovery, so important. Like we, a great example, mate, where I'm in Japan at the moment in summer, and mate, it's about 40 odd degrees here at times. We train in the middle of the day, mate. So talking to our guys about a lot of our players, they work at a company. So they go to work full time, and they then join us for a professional rugby program outside of their work times, the Japanese-based players. So I always look at them and think, when I've had a bad day, I think to myself, wow, mate, it's not as tough as these guys. These guys have to go to work all day. Then they come to me and I get the opportunity to push them even harder. So for those guys, that preparation's greatly important. How well they're eating, how well they're recovering, the hydration, to make sure that every time you put your boots on, you've got to be thinking that potentially that's your last time you're putting your boots on. And you've got to be grateful for that opportunity to be stepping onto that field. And I think COVID's definitely taught us that, right?
Yeah.
Locked away for 2 to 3 months at a time. Whilst great opportunity with families and awesome to be able to experience that, mate, I'm just grateful at the moment to be able to put my boots on the field, get my feet on the grass, and, mate, just be out there with the players and be out there with other people. And, it's just extremely grateful every time we're there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I know, like, with Super Rugby just kicking off and Super Rugby Aotearoa, it was definitely good to see the players back out there, and having a go. And we're looking forward to watching all the other competitions unfold as well. But that's so awesome what you shared there, Zane. And I know that everybody watching, I reckon everybody's notepads will be full of notes, and that all the gold that you've shared tonight. Now, just a bit of encouragement, just for like, there's some budding coaches in Iron Armour, and there are probably plenty of you that'll be watching this as well. Like, if there's anyone that wants to pursue, coaching and go to that next level, like, what advice would you have for them, for those that are watching?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think about this all the time. And I think when we're certainly early on as coaches, we have a real focus on the what. Yeah. So we always have this tendency to think, early on we're thinking, okay, what do I have to teach the players? Where it's very technical, and okay, I have to learn that drill. I have to learn something. I have to watch, Super Rugby Aotearoa and copy what they're doing, right? But I think the most important thing is to understand the why. So your first thing is to understand why you're coaching.
Yes.
So if you're a person that you're coaching because you want to help people be better, then mate, that's a great start. And focus on that connection piece. So how well you connect with players, how well you can get the best out of them. What is it that makes them tick? And then I think you can then work on your methodology. So once you work out your why, which is very much around your philosophy around coaching, why you do what you do, because everything stems from that, and that'll then drive you. And then your methodology is very much getting into the nuts and bolts of coaching. What does your session look like?
Yeah.
And it might not be the fact that if you go to a Super Rugby session and you watch it, your session might be very, very different because you're working with very different people. Mm. You got to look at the needs of what your players both need and want. And I think the last bit of advice I'd certainly give to new coaches would be definitely listen more than you talk. I learnt this one the hard way. I'll be brutally honest. When I was a young coach, I was very directive. I always thought that I probably had all the answers, but it's actually okay to not have all the answers.
Yeah.
And your players that you have, a lot of the time, have a great understanding of, one, their abilities as a team and how they like to play the game. So I think prompting and asking those questions and actually listening to them, and then putting that into place really builds that connection piece. And that might even drive your why, why you're coaching, and drives your philosophy. But then around that, you can build your methodology. So you can build okay, cool. Well, now I understand why I want to do it. I now understand the needs of the players. And then this is how we're then going to implement that. And then the what comes in at the end. What do I now need to be able to achieve that? Because the reality is, every time when I was early on, I always went to a team with my philosophy, my methodology, and I'd be, okay, we're going to play this way. But now it's very much right. What do I have? What are the players? What's the needs? What can I, what would they like to achieve? Why do they play? And then we can, as a group, work out the best style for us to be able to be successful.
Wow, that's awesome, Zane. And for those coaches and that want to go to that next level or want to get into coaching, there's some awesome information there from Zane himself on what he shared, like knowing the why, and then the what and the methodology after that. So massive thank you to you, Zane, for those gold nuggets that you've shared there with us. And just to finish off, Zane, what if you were talking to the athletes right now, like they're watching now, and if it was just you and them, if you're the coach in the changing room and you're about to go into a game, like, what would be one piece of encouragement for them now as they in Australia, as you know, junior seasons are starting back up, I think the season will probably look at starting around July and all that. So what would be your your pep talk as a coach to the team watching now?
Nice, mate. Well, look, I definitely know what I would finish on. And my finishing note would always be to have fun and enjoy it. Nice. Regardless of what level, mate. Like, regardless of what level, just enjoy what you're doing, enjoy playing together, and have fun at every opportunity you do. It's why we play the game. It's why we coach it. It's why we're involved in all sports. We've got to have fun, got to enjoy it. And the day that you don't, then maybe it's the day to think about maybe doing something else.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, there you have it, everybody. You know, Coach Zane said right then and there. All right, so enjoy it and have fun. Well, Zane, you know, we've run out of time, and I think we're going to do maybe a round 2 later on at some stage. But man, just want to say on behalf of Wainama, really enjoyed this podcast. Just really enjoy talking to you. I look up to you as a coach. You know, you inspire me and Marcel and what we do. And what I love is because for you, it's more than just the player on the field. It's about the whole package, you know, making sure that, like you're saying, connecting with them, finding out what brings the best out in them before, you know, you get into the whole methodology around rugby and the sport that you play in. And I love that. And that's our philosophy too with Wainama, is that if we get any player that comes here, regardless of what level of talent, our job is to make them a better person, a better player. And definitely resonate with everything that you said tonight. And I know that those that are watching have been blessed. And so on behalf of Wainama, brother, we want to honor you, man. If no one's ever told you this, we want to tell you this, man. We are so, you know, thank you for all that you've done for rugby and what you continue to do. Thank you what you've done, you know, in the community. And, you know, your work goes unnoticed. You know, we see it. And you've been such a blessing to us. And I know that wherever you are, that you are a blessing, and people, they leave different being under your presence, because it's more than just a game. And so we wish you all the best for your season, bro. And, you know, and much love to Emma and the kids in Brisbane. And definitely keen to catch up again. But we'll leave it there. And thank you again, Zane, bro. And we'll catch up soon.
Awesome, mate. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, mate.
Thank you, Zane. Take care, brother.
Thank you,
Bye.
mate.
Have it. What another awesome More Than Just a Game podcast, and massive shout out to Zane for coming on tonight. You know, I know you got a very busy schedule, but you know, we really appreciate you taking time out to come and share and encourage our athletes. And I know that many of you that are watching, parents, coaches, athletes watching, would have taken notes of notes and from tonight's podcast. And my encouragement is this: to apply what you have learned tonight. Apply what you've learned, because if you don't apply it, it just remains knowledge. But if you apply it, it becomes wisdom. So I want to encourage you with that. And you know, please, again, you know, join me in thanking Zane. And again, we'll be back next week, same time, same place, for another episode of More Than Just a Game. It's your boy CA Motivates. Take care. God bless. I'm Sharp as Iron.